Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supply to Octopus Energy. And this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by, I'm guessing, Arwin, right in the middle of my intro. Yes, indeed it is. We're also joined by 10th Man, Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Good morning.
Hey, Arwin, where you been?
And what?
Yeah,
I
you
wanted to
announced
quickly
10
round out
twice.
the thing with me and Neil. Like, I know 10th wanted to go with it in another direction, but I just wanted to hone in on Neil's position. If he believes the controlled release, he really shouldn't fuss. That was like my point I was trying to make.
Way to start the
should just-
live show with something totally unrelatable to anybody without any preface or summary. Thanks, that's really contextually brilliant for the live audience. So I really appreciate that.
They'll
That
find out
promotes
on
people
that
to go
re-up.
check out the pre-show, so you get
Definitely,
more
you
views on
should
the pre-show.
subscribe today if you don't want to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 member and get it pretty much immediately. Then 2 or 3 days later, you can get it from my second channel for free. That's Nathan Oakley. Subscribe today. I agree. Then you'll know exactly what context it was, rather than my earbending I gave Righteous for launching straight into a discussion that no one's got any idea about what they're listening about. Because that's, a good plug opportunity. Thanks. Good get out. You got there. As you know, I love to plug my own stuff.
Yeah, but Nathan, when I was just a listener and I would stumble across it and you just start the show with that, it would make me hungry for what I missed on the pre-show and be waiting at 5 o'clock for that release.
I just see it as terrible production. So as a summary, we're discussing about Neil's belief that the flat Earth, and I'm going to put air quotes around it and say, pizza pie maps, the false dichotomies that are thought about in the debating platforms that are out there, that flat Earth is a controlled release. And Righteous Force is of the opinion that if that is the case, what the hell are you worried about? Just sit back and enjoy the ride. You know, why are you even flapping? So that's where...
And not even...
Go on.
And not just to enjoy the ride, but just take advantage and like use it for the greater good, right? Just work with it, right? Just don't get like sweat. Just don't sweat about it because it's not getting released at the pace you want it to. But just work with it, right? Just. Anyways, I don't know. Maybe I should have interrupted you, Nathan.
No, it's good. It's good now. Not at all. Now that it's all been summarised and everyone knows what we're talking about, the discussion may continue, unless that's where it naturally rounds out, in which case, fair enough, we'll do a bit of housekeeping.
Well, before
Neil?
you do it, there'll be no more fussing from me now that I know what's going on. You'll never hear me complain about the
No, you
school
don't get it.
system
Stop.
again.
Like with Arwin, right? When I tell him to stop and he's unreasonable, that doesn't mean I don't want him to do it. As strange as that may sound, you're part of the show for a reason, and that's what you inject. So while we say stop moaning, it doesn't actually mean stop moaning, Neil. Unless it's about your car, then stop moaning.
Release Agent 10th back on the mic.
You got to understand, you develop that conversation. That's the good conversation, and after the fact, apologising, going, well, I won't do that again. So I'll get lost, don't come back. You've got nothing to offer then. Even though we're telling you don't do this, Neil. Stop doing that. Do this differently. It's because it's subject related and it's for the audience when we say stop doing that. I know we're telling you, but that's useful. It's hard to understand. You'll get it, I'm sure.
I
think I can sum it up better.
Go ahead.
Nathan has chosen his panel as a cross-representation of what he perceives society to be, and you represent an aspect of that, Neil.
That's correct.
Okay.
You're our everyman. No offence. You're what we call salt of the earth.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm happy
It's
with
not
that.
an insult. It's not an insult
Not
in
at
any
all.
way.
You're the
I don't-
best
I
of the
don't say-
best.
I don't think it is.
You're the best of
It
the best
is.
salt of the earth. if you
No,
like.
it's an insult right away because he's the salt of the earth. Insult.
Boom, boom. That was pretty slick. Right, on that
I'm
note,
the man.
I am going to assume that conversation's naturally rounded out unless Righteous wants to continue it with something else.
I'm good.
Where's Arwen?
Arwen should join, hopefully. He joined right while I was doing my intro, and then he disappeared again. I was hoping to get an update. I tried to call him. I've sent him a message asking if you're okay. But then he joined in my intro, which got him an earbending before the live show even started, really. But there we go. So he's not come back.
He's
Hopefully he
having
will.
He's having computer problems.
There you
That's
go.
what-
Nothing personal, as my assumption would indicate. I wish I could rewind time. But there we go, I can't. Let's do some housekeeping. Any evidence you can have occurred adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
No, it's impossible.
This, in combination
be
with the Black
flat.
Swan, is the end of globe Earth and the rise of flat Earth, in my eyes. There's no way around it.
And it's not over yet, according to 10th.
Indeed, it's not. There's many more to come, and the finale will be something no one even expects.
What's been happening up
Ooh.
until now is this information in terms of the natural physical reality we're actually faced with has been held back, retarded by controlled opposition. So that retardation can't sustain the water forever. So think of it more as floodgates. There's going to be things putting pressure on those floodgates. And as a result, the patchwork, when a few spring leaks appear, are the anti-flat earthers. But in reality, what are they doing? You can't stop the flow of a physical reality that is obvious and observable to everyone standing on it. That won't continue forever. A lie eventually gets exposed. Now, all we're doing at the moment, or what we're witnessing, if you want to see it as controlled release or whatever we were discussing in the pre-show, we're holding back the water with floodgates. Eventually, they'll be breached. Now, for me, the start of that breach is when our opponents say, of course I'm measuring it flat, it's measured on Earth. And I say, well, you're supposed to be measuring it as a sphere, you think you're on a sphere? And the answer you get, this is where's Wally, is no, I'm not. Now, when you're at that point where, because they haven't got to the stage where they typically would beg the question of a sphere Earth and just assume their outcome, they can't even get there. That's the point that there's no ifs, no buts, no doubts, no maybes. We've won. So, what comes forth from here, Neil? Well, anybody who's come into the information won't be in any misapprehensions or misunderstandings about which way the argument has gone. Now, after the Black Swan, shocking as this may sound, your cursory glance from a normie sees reaction and goes, all right, no, there is an overcome to this argument. I'll get on with my day. That's with the surface level scratch of it, because there's those people putting the band-aids on the floodgates. Well, what band-aids have they put on this floodgate? What? That's what I'm asking with the curved adjacent question. What have they got other than to say, yeah, well, it's measured on an Earth, therefore it's flat? That's what we've been told so far. I'm not even joking. From Globers.
Their band-aid is they agree with us.
That's not a band-aid. That's a breach.
It's a reoccurring theme. It's been there all the time, and we've discovered it with Andrew Thomas Young when he said all his refraction studies were done on a plane. And then, because they assume they're on a sphere, geometric considerations were taken to make it work on a sphere with the math. Now, what did Wally do? It's the same thing. Yes, there's no such thing as a curved adjacent. You can't get an angle from a curved adjacent. But after we get it, what does Wally do? He does the same thing. I live on a sphere. He assumes he's on a sphere after he measures it flat.
Well, he would
And
have
then he
done
says
had he
simple.
got that far here. I stopped him at the point he measured it flat and pointed out that he'd measured a flat Earth. However, in defence, in his damage control and in the comments, He seems to think that I was begging a question of a sphere Earth for him at that stage, when pointing out that his measurements used an elevation angle from a flat plane. So no, definitely not. But in their deluded minds, they still think that someone's got to be begging the question of a sphere Earth here, right? Obviously someone's doing it. Anyone, you've got to be doing it, right? No, you can't. You've got to start with a flat Earth to measure an angle. This is truly game over. And if they start begging the question of spheres and getting their angles and saying that they've come from tangent, what, the curved line that you haven't got anymore, Black Swan? Yeah, that's total game over. Who was it from Discord? Go ahead.
I said, I think that was the part that I was rolling on the floor laughing. It was just that he said, well, you're begging the question for me.
I didn't know when he was saying it that he thought I was begging the question on his behalf for a sphere Earth. Obviously, that's a typical behaviour of a flat earther, right? To beg the question on your opponent's behalf for a globe. No, we'll lay it out very specifically in something like Modus Tollens and then rip it to shreds after.
They do that a lot. Even the flat Earth fake pilot said at one point, "No, it's not. It's your claim." I think you said, "Are you crazy?" Something to that effect.
Yeah.
He was claiming his claim was your claim.
Yeah, they need to reverse the burden, beg the question, and they can't do any of it when it comes to measuring these angles on the ground. So nobody's begging the question of a sphere Earth. Nobody can beg the question of a sphere Earth. It doesn't work if you beg the question of a sphere Earth. You've got to start flat. It's just that simple. And you don't need to beg the question of a sphere Earth. It's all redundant. None of it's necessary. You can just move forth on your flat map with your flat plane and your angles that are straight and no curved adjacents and move around on the surface. It all works without any spherical assumptions needed. At all. And when they insert them with straight lines to tangent points they haven't got anymore. It's beautiful. Shout out to that flat fellow for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Nathan, that's a good point. Why don't you do it, because we did it in the pre-show. Show one or two of those slides that show that 90 degree, just so the audience could see a picture to what you just said, because that was a great summary.
In order to measure this angle to this sun in this example, you need a flat baseline. If you're getting co-angle, i.e. measuring it from your zenith, you're still going to acquire the zenith from your flat baseline to begin with. And if you're minusing it off, so you've got 90 degrees at the GP of the star, in this case the sun, so you've got a box. So you need parallel lines along the bottom and parallel lines along the side, 90 degree angles, flat plane underneath, and this is your starting point. This flat baseline, that's your starting point. Now, after you do this, no sphere Earth assumptions are needed. None. In fact, you can't, because you've got a straight line to measure an angle. Flat Earth required. What's that you say? Well, yeah, we'll measure it flat. We'll beg the question after. No, you won't, not here. You don't get to beg the question here. So after you measure it flat, there's no excuse that we'll beg the question later, when this show for 3 or 4 straight years has made it explicitly clear. You don't get to beg the question here, especially after measuring a flat plane for your angle. Then you've just proven it's flat. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
None whatsoever. You're going to need R for that. I've never seen it in my life. They keep saying it's there. However,
any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
none of the Earth-based variety, and you still need an R for that.
Any evidence?
I did.
Go on.
I did start trail photography the last 2 nights. Beautiful images. I'm going to share in the future, and it's so obvious we're not moving and the stars are moving. It's just so obvious, and yet they want to reverse that.
Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No, because they got that by using R. There's no R.
Any evidence of the R value? Earth radius?
Nope.
Only gravity claims for a long while. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
You can hold me to it. None.
Feel free from Discord to join in. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
All those fields work with R, so no. You could assume it though. You can measure something flat and assume it's a sphere, and you could look at stars and assume things, but no, there's nothing.
No, you won't. After you've measured it flat, yeah, that's where the end comes. There's no, oh well, but if I assume that angle is actually taking place as a tangent point I can't get because all lines are bent in a sphere Earth with sphere Earth air. No, that won't work because the assumption fails also, Black Swan.
Well, then it's not going to work in those fields when you ain't got R either, because everything is based on R, and we've covered the math of their orbital mechanics and the distances from things and how they work in that paradigm of theirs. It's all gone. It's just blown to smithereens.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Come on, John. I don't want to be the only one answering.
Sorry, I was cooking breakfast.
I'm trying to find out if Neil deGrasse Tyson answered my question. So,
Oh, you're looking for a reply in regards to any evidence that you can have or acquire an elevation angle with a curved adjacent?
correct.
Okay. Has he responded? I assume not.
Nothing.
Nothing. Bummer.
I'm being ignored. I thought I would have some weight with my first name being Neil.
Well, the answer to that is known, and he knows it. That's why he'll never answer it.
Coward.
We've had a few people from Discord in the last couple of shows regale us with the 3 questions that QE came up with in regards to acquisition of an elevation angle with a curved adjacent. And it's nice hearing people being, brave enough to take ballers. The last one was apparently Rumpus and I think George were taken through the steps, and they agree, they disagree, and then it's no.
You want me to read them for the audience?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Number 1. Are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 2. Are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Yes.
Number 3. Can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent, curved baseline?
No.
Welcome to Flat Earth.
No. Yeah, Earth must be flat.
Can't make this stuff up.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon? For all the fundies who think space is real.
The most easiest one is that one. And you've said it, Neil said it the other week, and I shared it with a person a couple of days ago. You can't have any gas pressure next to an available volume that's called a vacuum, right next to it, without a barrier, because it will just dissipate into that empty space. And that's what they say we are. We have a vacuum of space next to Earth's gas pressure with no container, no barrier. Well, how is it staying on Earth? It would fill the available space. That's gas law. That's thermodynamics. That's obvious.
So that means we've got a new top 3. Dun, 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 dun. Down 2 at number 3, it's gas pressure without a container. Obviously, you can't have gas pressure without a container, And if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. Dun, 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 dun. Down 1 at number 2, it's the Black Swan. If the Earth was a sphere with a radius of 3959 miles, then every distance to horizon measurement could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and the distance in the Black Swan imagery is beyond the physical limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Therefore, the Earth is not a sphere, and the horizon is not Earth curve. Dun, 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 dun. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's a new number 1. Any evidence you can have. A curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle. Obviously not. The Earth is flat. Dun 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 dun.
Well done.
I think that concludes housekeeping. And
All
also,
right, Discord.
if anybody was wondering, Arwin's fine. He's just got computer issues, as people have been asking over the last couple of days.
Anyone in Discord want to comment on the housekeeping questions?
Yeah, anybody?
Is there?
Anybody been using these questions that QE put up, or any of the new arguments that have come about from the housekeeping question that's been added for 2020, technically speaking? I'm going to say it's added for 2022, rather. 2020? 2022. Yeah, I've had loads of fun with it. They can't have an elevation angle from a curved adjacent. Oh, well, that's good to hear. Who did you have over a barrel? Oh, this fundy over the 24/7 Discord, yeah, who's great. Oh, well, I'm pleased that you told us about that. Thanks. Such an active 13 participants that we've got in today's live stream Discord. Nope, sarcasm didn't work either, 10th, I'm afraid.
No. Well, we can fill in the time because basic geometry, angles, it doesn't work on a curved baseline. And QE put it together in a nice 3-question form, and it's got them stumped, Nathan, because they know the minute they start answering, it's over.
Yeah, you kind of, in your back of your mind, think, wow, the Black Swan argument is never going to be topped. You know, it's such a beautifully constructed argument that leaves no wiggle room. And the rebuttal is actually the debunking of the claim in the first instance. That's eloquent. You know, you've got to admire that. But you think, what could possibly be round the corner? Well, an argument that means they can't beg the question at all, rather than saying, oh, look, you're begging the question of a sphere Earth, in a modus tollens that debunks it. There's no begging the question with this. There's none. You can't. It's beautiful. I love this argument. I said it from day one. I like this argument so much.
You know what's funny is that the modus tollens and the Black Swan is putting their position out front and center in a very respectful way, saying if the Earth is a sphere with a radius of, and they're mad that we even do that.
Yeah, once you've debunked the physical tangent point horizon, that's Earth curve, there's no assuming it to readdress it as a straight flat baseline and say, well, no, look, if it's a straight line to a tangent point Earth curve edge horizon, and I do these dip correction and height of area correction, then I've got a flat baseline to work with, just like Earth is. It's like, yeah, you haven't got a straight line to a tangent point anymore. Black Swan, what are you talking about? Don't you remember 2 straight years of barking refraction? That means you haven't got any straight lines. So what the hell are you talking about? Meanwhile, you can just acquire a horizontal by looking at the horizon, making any corrections for how high you are above the plane that you're going to be using with 90-degree angles, assumed at any altitude, to run parallel with the ground. That's a flat Earth right there. Can't be spherical because that would mean you'd have curved adjacents. Well, you can't get an angle from one of them. Can't get an angle from a curved Earth. Needs to be flat and is and works. No sphere needed. Got to be flat first. Epic.
You remember, Elijah, you there? Because Elijah brought it to our attention when it first happened.
Yeah, I mean,
you remember when back, I don't know how many months ago it was, but you came on the show and you said, oh my gosh, they don't want us to mention 90. You want to go over that? That was so awesome because I want to say something after you say it.
well, I mean, just to put it concisely, because I don't have the best audio right now. I was in Brandon's hangout one night, and this guy was talking about sailing. I was like, oh, so then you've used the sextant before? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, you know that that proves a flat Earth. And he said, first of all, don't you mention 90. It's basically saying that, you guys listen to the 10th man, none of you guys have sailed and you don't know what a sextant is. And if you mention 90, I'm going to blow my top.
Nathan, you want to put one of those slides up just as a backdrop that shows 90 from their own books,
Sure.
from their own sites?
Well, somebody else, I
mean,
can't remember if it was also you, was saying that they had Zanuck absolutely flipping his top because someone kept pointing out that they couldn't acquire the angle he was detailing unless he had a flat baseline. And he kept on shutting the person down and getting very angry. And you're like, yeah. Long may it continue.
It's amazing because that guy came on your chat as well later on and was telling us we didn't know anything and we've never seen a sextant, we've never touched a sextant. And Adam came on the show holding a sextant, and then later I bought a sextant. So it's like they use it, but they don't know how it's supposed to work. And then we bring that to their attention, and they get mad at 90 when their own books tell you it's 90.
No, Zanuck was yelling tangent at the people. Tangent.
Oh, right. Well, meanwhile, they don't have a tangent point horizon to get a straight line to, do they? Yeah? Let me wonder. What was the word they used? A refraction! So, what is it, Zanuck? No Atmo Day, suddenly? Or maybe when I point that out, I'll be told it's very close to the geometric horizon. Well, what's that? How do we get that? We don't. So very close to something that doesn't exist. Yeah, you can't be close to something that doesn't exist. And if you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. That would be geometry, Earth measurements. So if you can't measure a geometric horizon, and we haven't got one, then you can't be very close to it to claim it's refracted, also still leaving you with no straight line to claim a tangent. You need a straight line, and it needs to be flat, and it needs to have 90 degrees to it, parallel with the sky roof. That's a box. Parallel with your zenith and the zenith of the GP of the star. That's a box. That doesn't work on a curved surface, and you haven't got a tangent anymore. What do you mean tangent? Tangent to what? Earth curve? Yeah, we debunked that with the black swan. Remember? Refraction? So no, definitely not a tangent.
So Nathan, the current picture you have up, I'll work on it for Monday just so you have it. But let's imagine the circle of equal altitude. So see where the sun is, put your mouse and bring it straight down to where it touches that flat baseline. So where Nathan's mouse will touch that flat baseline, that's the GP of the sun. And the circle of equal altitude will be equidistant, no matter where you took it from, if you're on that circle. So you see where the box is? That's the circle edge. And where Nathan's cursor is, that's the GP. And you still have the other part of that radius to the right that we're not showing. So that circle right there that he's doing is showing you a two-dimensional circle. And the radius from the sun to that person's GP is flat and straight. That's how it's done from their own books.
So yeah, there's no getting around it, basically.
Epic.
It is epic because, there's no denying their relinquishment of a tangent point horizon. They have most definitely, most assuredly got rid of it when they said refraction. Bent line to the horizon's what they've been telling us. Black swan, you say? No, bent line. Refraction. What is it? No Atmo Day. That was their rebuttal. You'd only get to see a straight line physical geometric sphere edge if you removed all the air. Okay? So you're saying it's always a bent line. Yep. What are you, idiots? Why would you expect to see a geometric horizon? Never going to see a geometric horizon. Never going to have a straight line tangent point, Zanuck, if that's your response. Your own side's told us for 2 straight years how refracted it is, so no. Meanwhile, you do need 90 degrees. What's that? We should mention 90. Yeah. Because you won't have a parallel line either, will you, on a sphere? Yeah, it'll all be curving away from you. It won't work.
Their subject matter expert, Harold Jacoby from Columbia University, astronomy dean, has a great book out. I've shared it. QE shared it. He says it's a right angle triangle 90 degree. Well, what else could it be? They don't want to hear triangle or right angles either, not just 90. But, they're afraid of the truth.
Yeah, truth being Earth is flat, and they can't get around these angle measurements without first having a flat Earth underneath their feet. I wish I'd recognised it when Conspiracy Cats pointed it out in the immense implications that just slipped me by. Didn't slip QE by, props to him as well. But when you're like, I have to give you a flat Earth here to get this angle I'm going to base the rest of my argument on. You're like, hold on. Yeah, you can't do it unless it's flat at this point. You've lost. Shout out to Mark Leno. I hope I'm saying your name right. Probably not. Let's just bring up your super chat. If I prove a flat Earth, to whom do I give Bitcoin? Being that I can't get Bitcoin for proving anything else. If I prove a flat Earth, to whom do I give Bitcoin? Being that I can't get Bitcoin for proving anything else. Lols. I think that's kind of sarcasm because there's a lot of Bitcoin on offer to prove a globe Earth. I think that's the sentiment. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it, Mark. Thank you very much.
Morning, guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, Chaco.
We were regaling each other with
Sup,
stories of
James?
Black Swan and curved adjacent victories. Have you had any on out and abouts that you've been on, Chocolate?
Say that again? I didn't get that.
We're giving each other our stories of victories where we've gone out and asked someone where they've got their angle. If they've got a curved adjacent, they can't have one, and so on. Have you got any of those sorts of stories?
What, asking somebody about their angle? Where they got a straight line for the angle?
Yeah, exactly.
Uh,
Or if you can
no,
remember any from the
not
show.
really. Oh, well, I mean, other than just freaking virus the other day, which was probably the best because he just destroyed himself just by John asking him, hey, where you get that radius for that Coriolis you were talking about? Angles to stars. Ooh. That sucks. But no, I don't. Yeah. Been fun.
So he put both angles to the stars, right?
No,
Yeah.
you don't. If you
He
put both
he
lines to the
definitely
star, no, you don't put both lines to the star. That doesn't give you an angle. It gives you one straight line.
I mean, right there, that's idiocy. Come on now.
Yeah, you can't talk about the other one. The other one runs parallel to the box that you're going to be measuring to if you've got the sky as a flat ceiling to get 90 degrees and co-angles. All of these things require it to be in a box. So he can't do that. So he stopped talking about the ground because at this point, this doesn't work because his ground's curving away from him at 8 inches per mile squared. So he can't do any of it.
Oh, stay away from the ground
has
again.
nothing to
huh?
do with the shape of the Earth. He literally. I listened to that show again yesterday. I mean, it was probably one of the funniest ones that I can remember being a part of.
Yeah,
Right.
Nathan was on his all-time comedic role there.
Well,
That
he's
was
being asked
hysterical.
where he gets R from, and he's saying he gets it from this angle measurement. And then when he gets to the point that he's got to use a flat baseline to do it, he says it's nothing to do with the ground and nothing to do with the shape of the Earth. It's like, hold on, this started off with you telling us that you're going to get an R measurement. That's from your presupposed spherical Earth's ground to the centre. But it's nothing to do with the ground and nothing to do with the shape, but I'm apparently getting R from this. Right up until the point that I have to actually say, I need a flat baseline for this. He wouldn't say it, so he kept on drawing two lines to the same star. That's what he kept doing at that point, rather than say, yeah, I've got to actually draw out a flat baseline here. I mean, better job than Wally did at defending the anti-flat Earth position, because he was like, yeah, of course I've got to draw out a straight flat line. It's on Earth. That's what he actually said.
And then he said, simple, done.
Simple, done. And we were like, right, so you've just proved a flat Earth yet? In his mind, he's like, no. Because in this discussion, you, the flat earther, you're assuming a globe, aren't you, mate? That's what he thought. He thought I was assuming a globe for him at that point. I'm not even joking. That's what his defence has been. I can't believe I'm saying it. It's so stupid. But that's literally what he said in my comments. No, you were begging the question for me.
So then how are they able to say refraction and still get a straight line?
They can't. That's the point. the moment they start assuming the sphere Earth and drawing tangent point horizons and then bringing them back up so they can have the 90 degrees, they've got to have a straight line to a tangent point horizon then. What is it, no Atmo Day? What's going on, globe believers? Talk about your flip-flop.
Nathan, I put it in because I had to clip it out, so I put it in Master B.
What have you put in?
Master B.
No, what have you put in?
Oh, the other line being the same line.
Oh, okay. Oh, is it? It's a clip. Oh, I see.
Yeah, a little snippet of it. It was too funny. I had to.
Again, 2 lines makes an angle. The first line goes from your eye to the star, right? The second line goes from your eye to where?
The star.
You already put that line at the star.
Oh my God!
That
Sorry,
one is
no,
already
maybe
gone
Brian.
to the star.
Sorry, Brian. Goes. Yeah, I think we all heard enough to. Exactly. That's what he did, because at that point he's got to draw a line along the ground, and he doesn't want to do that. So what's he going to do? If he's got this problem where one of the lines is this line, it's your baseline, what's he going to do? Well, he's just going to keep drawing the same line over and over again, rather than say, yeah, I need a flat baseline for that. Because he's never going to do that as an anti-flat earther, is he? So suddenly his brain goes into meltdown and just draws one line, syntax error, zip, 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 zip. That's what he's doing.
Nathan, you ought to play that clip again that generated a super chat.
Oh, okay. I'll read the super chat after.
Neil, 1 second. So, start again. 2 lines makes an angle. The first line goes from your eye to the star, right? The second line goes from your eye to where?
The star.
You already put that line.
Shout out to Into the Break, is it? Into the Break.
Break.
Okay. Huh?
Break.
Break. Okay, fair enough. Damn, bruh, why you gotta make me do that? Proving a flat earth, a cum virus. He didn't actually say that. That was me saying that. And I didn't even get the words
Why
right.
you walk me through this, Nathan?
Yeah, but
Why you walk me through this?
I feel guilty because I thought I'd parroted him verbatim, right? It was just me not understanding his American twang. And I said this yesterday. Travis, A Plain Truth, points out what he actually said. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't matter. But if someone's going to put his name after that, it's not a quote. So, that's not fair. But thank you for the super chat.
It was still too funny.
It was funny. It's the sentiment. It's the fact that he was so exasperated and high-pitched at that point that I was mimicking. And it didn't matter what the words were.
High-pitched, any higher. If he would have went any higher, he would have started moonwalking.
If you're going to have an American twang, you're going to need a baseline.
Indeed, he did. So it's been an interesting couple of days. This has been the quietest day in the last week, right? I don't normally mention the day, but we're right at the end of the week now. It's Friday. And from last Sunday, when I went on Charles' show, all the way through the week, it's been nothing but eventful. And I've got loads of praise. Thank you to all the people in the comments, by the way. Lots of people saying, wow, this has been a week of really good shows. Sorry that if this one's been boring as hell. I don't know if it has. Got me doing a top 3. That's not bad. That's something, right?
No, it's like when you punch out the guy in the ring and the fight's over and no one's, the crowd goes away because they came to see the fight. They saw who won, and now it's time to celebrate and wait for the next bout. So that's where we are. We just knocked them all out. The fight's over until next week.
No.
Well, I have to say,
hold on a sec. We didn't knock them out. They knocked themselves out when they
That's
took the
correct.
angle measurement.
Yeah, it's them snatching their own wig off continuously.
Yeah,
so the uppercut.
Their first uppercut to their own face was telling us they've got no straight lines.
Nathan, I was going to just say that with the uppercut, but you got me there.
well, if you're talking about the show, I have to say that my wife has said that she misses the days when Brenda and them were on because it was such a spanking all the time. It was entertaining, but now it's more educational now.
And new spankings.
I don't miss those days. I like today's days. I like the arguments being so strong that they're afraid to come on.
Well, it was just that
It's-
it was so
it's more
stupid if
like-
you listen to them shows.
It's more like self-beating, not spanking.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're self-flagellation at this point for the ones that come on that are old hat. I mean, the people who are relatively new, like Where's Wally, you know, he's deluded himself. I don't know how. I'm not going to even postulate how he's come to the position that he was so wrong about winning. I mean, it beggars belief that he kidded himself in that bigger way. I can't fathom a journey to get to that position that he was in, where he would get in so deluded and so cocksure, only to be absolutely annihilated. Basically, admit that he's not a glober. It's got to be a flat Earth. Of course it is. It's on Earth. You know, those are the things he gave us here. So, anybody, can you fathom how you'd get to that sort of place where you kid yourself that you're going to be winning Bitcoin with a really stone cold flat Earth proof? You're already admitted to your main opponent, Mitch, in this instance, that you're begging the question, and then you press on, go on a flat Earth debate show that's notoriously difficult if you're an anti-flat earther to win your point without begging the question, which all of them require, apart from this one, which actually proves a flat Earth in the first place, and then put that information forth only to be told by your flat Earth opponent that you're literally proving a flat Earth. And from there forward, your only rebuttal is to say, I assume you, the flat Earther, were assuming the globe for me. That's what he's come back with since. So how do you get there? And what kind of journey takes you there? Anybody, come on, fill me in. There's got to be some speculation.
Well, he did say he was a little shocked when you said welcome to flat Earth. He was like, how so? So, like, I just don't think they're getting it, to be honest with you.
I had a funny one the other day, guys, if I can tell you.
Oh, definitely. Please, one deck. Go ahead. Regale us.
Yeah, it's a guy called Alien Astro Dad. He's like a NASA freak space guy. So I got into a bit of a conversation with him, and I was asking him how he, can prove the R value with a curved adjacent. And this was going. He wasn't getting nasty or anything, but it kept going back and forward, and he kept saying you can do it with a curved base. So I was asking him, as a triangle got a curve, then is that what you're saying? Blah, 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 blah. I went back and forth, and I've got his text message back here now. I'll just read it to you. This was his answer. He said, take a huge ball, in brackets, meters in diameter, and put a rice of corn on it. Now measure the angle of the shadow by the rice corn. Do it on a second location to get the size of the ball. The thing is, as long as your stick is much smaller than your sphere, you can use the surface of the sphere as a flat surface without introducing error. So he's used angle and flat surface twice there. I just thought it was hilarious.
That's a nice presupposition.
So I just welcome him to flat
Well,
Earth.
hold on. I tried to follow along with that, but I didn't quite understand where the globe presupposition sandwiched in. But then when I was looking for it, you said, I'll use a flat plane. So maybe I'm missing it, because I didn't hear the actual presupposition worked into the angle measurement. It wasn't. It was declared, but it wasn't actually part of it. Am I wrong?
Well, he's basically saying use some rice corns on a big sphere to measure the angle.
Stop. I got all that. When he said that bit, that's just the begging the question that what I'm doing now takes place on a sphere. So he's declaring his fundamentalist religious presupposition in the first instance. Yeah, that bit I got. But when it actually comes to the measurements of the angles, that isn't actually worked into it, is it?
No, he's just saying you can use the surface of the sphere as a flat surface, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, it does make perfect sense, because they can't use a sphere. So they're saying, in this instance, we must beg the question of a flat Earth. So with all his declarations of it being a globe by presupposition, what he's actually doing is measuring a flat Earth by his own admission.
This is what they've come to.
That's exactly what he's doing. He's saying you need a ball big enough compared to that rice corn or whatever, so that it's flat compared to it, so you can get that angle. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's admitting it's an angle, and he's admitting it's flat, but he's a glober.
But this is why I love this argument. There isn't. I said it was accessible to all levels of understanding of flat Earth. So if you're just coming into the subject, you're like, I realise I'm being lied to. NASA haven't got any pictures. It's got to be flat. If you like your standards that low, right? In other words, you've got virtually nothing. You could come to this argument, pick it up, throw it in the face of the most talented globe-defending Muppet, and have them tell you at the end of it how flat Earth is. That's what this argument offers.
It's
Wait
amazing.
a second, but with that large sphere, and he puts 2 rice kernels down, correct? Now, what does he do from there? Because you went out on me a little bit.
Measures angles off a flat surface. By the time the ball's big enough for it to be flat, he can then start measuring angles.
Now measure the angle. He's telling you to put it on a sphere and now measure the angle.
If I assume I've got a sphere big enough to assume that it's no longer spherical and I can ignore that aspect of the sphere completely so that it's flat and I can get an angle from it, then I can get an angle from a sphere. But you're not getting an angle from a sphere then, yeah? You're just taking your sphere and making it as flat as you possibly can.
Yeah.
You're making it flat.
Hold on,
And that's the ground we're talking about.
And then he wraps it up. You can use the surface of a sphere as a flat surface without introducing error.
Yeah.
This is
So
a
he
proper
needs a
globe
flat
head
surface
master,
then.
guy. This is a proper globe head.
Wait, John's saying something.
No, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. So if you go out to the GP of the star and you have a flat baseline, the ground would be falling away from your flat baseline, but the linear distance over the curve when you get to underneath the star would be at a different angle, right? So if you created 2 triangles from those points, you'd end up with, I would say, approximately 1 degree off, right? And a lot of their arguments are, if it was flat Earth, it's 1 degree off from what the globe Earth should be. You see what I'm saying?
What, they reverse it in terms of where the error lies?
No, let me explain. Have you guys ever seen the missing square triangle puzzle? What essentially it is, it's a triangle where the bottom is 8 long and then the side is 5 tall, I believe. And it looks like there's a missing square when you rearrange the triangles. But what it is that the top triangle is 1 degree off from the other, and you end up with an entire square volume area that you can disappear. And so if you have a 90 underneath the star, right, which is assuming a flat baseline and a flat linear distance to the base of the star, if you had a curved linear distance to the base of the star, it would have an extra distance to it, right? And this is where they claim, I can't get these distances to fit on a flat Earth.
Okay, that's the second time I heard it, it made a bit more sense. Okay, but no, because then you've got the contradiction at that point, because then you can't get a 90. You're saying, well, if it was comparable to the extra angle that you'd have with the curved surface underneath, but then you're not acquiring 90 degrees anymore, are you? If that's the assumption.
That's correct.
No, you can if you hypothetically imagine the line piercing through the Earth. So you have one triangle, right, which is horizontal baseline.
Hold on.
And then you have another triangle, which is 1 degree down, but it still has a flat baseline.
Hold on. 10th got there before you could get to the end of your statement. He jumped in with a chord, right? You'll need half of that.
Right, you take those 2 triangles and you match them up and you end up with the assumption of a greater distance between point A and point B, which is where they get this idea where the curved, paths can't work on a flat Earth. They're like, the distance between these cities is such, and it's off a little bit from what it would be if it's flat, so it must be curved. But they're getting these distances over the water based on angles to stars. And so they have a differential in their 2 triangles where they can create more distance, but it only exists in their math or in their mind. Like the flat ground that you're traveling across is still the same distance. But if you infer the distance you're going from the stars, then you're going to end up with an error.
Gotcha.
No. The GP of the star or sun, say, is 3,000 miles away from the observer. The total diameter would be 6,000. So the subpoint GP of the sun to the observer is measured from the zenith angle. The zenith angle is the second calculation because the first one is the measurement with the sextant of the altitude. So if you have an altitude, then you minus that from 90. It gives you the co-altitude. Now, those are what I call the sky miles, because it's the angular relationship of the star and your zenith. That distance is the zenith distance. And if that's 3,000 miles, that's 3,000 mile radius of the circle of equal altitude, all flat. How many grains of rice do you need? Where's the curve start ever then?
And I think
I don't know. I'll have to make a graphic for you.
I think the biggest problem with your statement was imagine that part that it's piercing through. And that's the thing. They're not imagining when they're seeing that, right? They're doing 90. They're not imagining, oh, it's curving away.
Right, but they're imagining that the ground is still curving below that 90. So when you get out underneath the star, right, their line going down to the surface of the Earth is going to have an angle bending inwards towards them.
Is that in the manual?
Yeah, again, Tenth's jumped in.
No, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. What I'm saying is that...
Hello. Yeah, you're going to have to wait just till the right moment, Tenth, because you're saying the right thing, but no one's hearing it. Where'd you get the angle? At that point, that fails. How'd you acquire the angle with a elevation angle from a curved surface?
Well, the reason I'm saying this, and again, it's because whoever's talking is not thinking through what is necessary to even start the process. If it's impossible, why even talk what he's saying? Just shut it down. Where'd you get the angle? The tool doesn't work.
What I'm explaining is that this shows where they get extra distance between 2 points.
What shows
if you travel out
shows...
to your point that you're saying is the GP of the star, right? In order to be where your angle intersects at 90, you would have to be in the air, would you not?
Hang on, I'm so confused the way you're talking. Rephrase it to where I can understand it, because what you're telling me is that you're taking...
Let me help you. So what he's saying is...
I'll take a minute and draw it.
After they've foregone the conclusion that you can only achieve an angle on a flat plane, after they've slipped that by and begged the question of a sphere, the inaccuracy of the math is then put back on the flat earther thereafter, I think is what he's saying.
Well, that's nonsense.
No, I don't think so. I suggest that, and he said no.
Yeah, it's roughly that. What you end up with is two triangles that are off by a degree, and it creates extra distance. And it's an assumption of extra distance because you're assuming the surface is curved.
Okay, now you're... Listen, a box, is there any curvature to a box?
No. We have covered this in terms of the rebuttal. It's always the same rebuttal. Yeah, he's explaining how they try and get around this in terms of they're describing the wiggle room they need when they dissect with a chord with an assumed R value, and then you've got a differential in terms of the measured distance, and then it's reversed so that it's put on us that difference is actually our problem.
Yep. So for Tenth Man, if you traveled out to be underneath the star, where the star is directly above you, okay, so you look at the star, you shoot your position, you use the flat baseline and everything, right? You would assume a certain distance to the general position of the star. Notice how it's a general position. Now, if you go out there to the star...
Hold on, Tenth, just let him finish.
He just already... I'm sorry, but he said if I'm directly under the star, I wouldn't be using a sextant. I'm directly under it.
No.
So you shoot the star,
Tenth Man, you need to calm your shorts. You need to calm your shorts and let me finish my sentences because you just mischaracterized what I said. Okay. I said, if you travel out...
Let's just try and get some charge again. Okay, right.
Shoot the sextant from far away.
Oh, right? God. It's not going to work if you try and take charge. Tenth, just let him get to the end of his statement. Okay. Citation police. Go ahead.
Okay, so you shoot the general position of the star from far away. You're using a flat baseline. You assume a 90 below it. You get your distance, right? Then you travel out to the star, which obviously the star would move because of time, but let's assume the star stayed exactly where it was. You travel out to the star, you're supposedly, in their worldview, traveling on a curved surface. So when you get directly below the star, in their worldview, that straight up and down would be tangential to the previous position. So when they get there, you end up with a 90, which you had shot in the beginning, and then you end up with a slightly different tangent right there. Okay, now if you reverse engineer that back into the distance you assumed you traveled, you would believe in your mind erroneously that you traveled a greater distance. And if you tried to make a triangle out of it over different points, you would end up with their little curved lines don't work on a globe. So what they've done is they've created an imaginary extra distance between point A and point B. Do you follow that?
It's very difficult to follow what you're saying because it's so full of nonsense, and I know you're repeating what they're saying, but you were wrong in the first phrase.
He's not wrong. I know.
No, let me finish.
Just stop a sec. He's explaining their position, so just try and phrase it such that you don't antagonize.
I just said that. I just said he's saying that. I know he's not saying it himself, but an elevation angle, the altitude, is not the distance. That's what you need to find the distance after you minus it from 90. The zenith distance is what you're interested in, and you can't even get it unless you're working on the flat plane to get the elevation angle first.
Yeah. But it leaves them with a multitude of problems, and this is just him explaining how they're trying to get around one of these problems. Now, trying to get around one of these problems so they can sit in a discussion forum and explain how they might be able to get around it with that description won't alter the fact that if it was ever put to us, we'd just say, you need 90. What are you talking about? Won't work with a curved surface. It's the end of the argument, right, 10th?
Yeah, well, not only that, but he said, they said, so I'm not saying he's saying it, and I never thought he was saying it, all right? But I get sick of the rubbish because you can't even do it. You can't even get an angle without baseline. So it's over there, just like you shut them down right away. Where'd you get the angle? But then they said, and he's repeating them, is that, okay, so you shoot the altitude of the star and say it's 3,000 miles away, it's GPTU once you do the minus 90. But then you somehow get underneath that star, even though it's moving, and now you're directly under. We're not talking about celestial navigation here. We're talking about people who are spiraling because they don't have a globe Earth.
That's right. That's right. That's what I've asked for, though. What have we got? What's been in discussion? Thank you very much, Citation Police, by the way, because that's precisely what I've been asking for. Yeah, what are they coming up with? Well, what they're coming up with isn't an overcome for the problem. It's a justification after the fact. And this is their justification after the fact, which doesn't in any way overcome the argument. It still has to assume a flat plane. It's brilliant. Even in the overcome, they've still got the flat Earth. It's great.
Right. Sounds to me like you're reversing, like saying, see, this can't work on a flat Earth.
Neil, Citation Police is talking. Just let him have his moment, please.
For 10th man's point is you never could shoot a star at its position and then travel out to it and be directly under it at the position you shot it because the sky's moving. But if you put it in a little orthographic projection, right, and you assume that constancy, you can draw your little globe assumption in there, right? And you'll have a differential in angle, which will cause you to assume there's a greater linear distance between you and the star. And then you take those angles and you reverse engineer them and call them, nautical miles or whatever. And then you end up telling people, to get from point A to point B is a greater distance than it would be in a flat Earth.
I know what's going on here.
Saying.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. I've got about 30 books on celestial navigation that I'm staring at here. I've never seen that. I like the Citation Police for that one.
No, it's not site-worthy. This is site-worthy.
I can explain this.
This is just their discussions after the fact to try and get around the problems that are induced when they measure a flat Earth and then assume that there's a globe underneath it and the difference that problem creates. Then they try and explain that problem that was created when they measured a flat Earth. So I want to hear this stuff. I don't want you to jump down his throat. I'm so grateful that we're getting this.
I'm not jumping down this
Can I give some clarity to
Yeah,
it? 'Cause
yeah, Brian, let me-
I'm going to round.
communication.
I was just
here.
about to round out the live show, but you can have the last word, Brian. Go ahead. Thank you for joining, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. I'm driving, so I can't speak all the time. What that man, the citation police, is speaking about there is the Globers using the Haver sign formula. If you notice, I've been on jumping down the next of those who are using that, the Haver sign formula, where they take a straight line and they curve it and make it a greater distance, and then they claim that the straight line distance is wrong. That's what that man is talking. He's talking about from an orthographic view. I take on a globe. I take an angle to a star, which I can't do because it's a globe, and then I put another angle. The star's zenith then is divergent to my zenith, and then I put another angle from that, and that creates a greater distance. It's total nonsense. It's backward engineering. So to prove a globe, it's backward mathematical engineering to prove a distance on a globe, and that's all it is.
But they can't get an angle. But they can't get the angle in the first. Hold on. But Brian dropped it in. Hello. Brian dropped it in the middle, which is an angle they can't get. So can you just reiterate that, and then I'll round out the live show and ask everyone to stay tuned.
Yeah, they want a curved surface, so they can't get this angle. They need one straight baseline, and they can't do that. So the whole thing is down the toilet. But they're just mathematically trying to prove a globe.
Perfect. With an angle they can't acquire off a curved surface. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in the live stream audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!